All right, listeners, get ready, because we're going to take a deep dive into something pretty big,
Oh, yeah.
straight from the California DMV.
Hot off the press.
Literally, a news release just landed on our desks.
Wow.
And this could actually change things for senior drivers across the whole country.
Really?
We're talking about how California is changing the game for drivers 70 and older when it comes to renewing their licenses.
So what are they doing different?
Well,
Is this like a whole new system?
it kind of is.
Okay.
Get this, California is saying goodbye to the written test requirement
No more written test.
for a lot of senior drivers.
Wow, that's a big change.
Yeah, starting October 1st of next year.
Next year.
If you've got a clean driving record and
Yeah.
you're 70 or older,
All right.
no more memorizing that giant DMV handbook.
So no more cramming for a test you probably haven't taken in like forever.
Exactly.
That's got to be a relief for a lot of folks.
But hold on, before you think you can just skip your renewal altogether,
Right.
let's break down what's changing and what's staying the same.
Yeah, let's get into the details.
Okay, so the DMV is saying this is all about making things easier
Easier for who?
for drivers
Okay.
and, improving customer service.
Mm-hmm.
They want to cut down on those long waits at the DMV.
The lines can be brutal.
They really can. And get this, the written test wasn't even a legal requirement.
It wasn't.
No,
So it was just like a DMV thing.
it was just policy.
Interesting. So they're basically admitting that for a lot of experienced drivers, especially those with clean records,
Yeah,
that written test wasn't really doing much.
exactly. It just felt like an extra hoop to jump through.
Yeah, like a formality.
Exactly. So they're streamlining things for the people who don't need that extra layer of testing.
Makes sense.
But here's the thing.
What's that?
Senior drivers will still need to renew their licenses in person.
Oh, so you still got to go down there.
You do.
Okay, so what's the point of going in person if there's no written test?
Well, for starters, you need a new photo.
Oh, right, because those old license photos can be something else.
Oh, they can be brutal.
Like, seriously, who chose those pictures?
I know, right? And plus there's the vision test.
Mm-hmm.
Got to make sure everyone on the road can see clearly.
Of course, safety first.
Right, so think of it more like a quick checkup,
Okay,
not a full-blown exam.
gotcha. So it's about convenience, but with those essential safety checks.
Exactly.
Right.
But what about drivers who, might have a little something on their record?
A few bumps and scrapes.
Does this no-test rule apply to them?
That's a good question.
It doesn't.
It doesn't.
There are a few exceptions.
Okay, I'm listening.
No matter how old you are, you'll still need to take that written test if you've had a couple of accidents recently.
Like, how recent are we talking?
Let's say 2 or more in the past 2 years, or 3 or more in the past 3.
Okay, so if you've had a few fender benders,
Yeah, the DMV wants to double check you're still up to speed on the rules of the road.
that makes sense.
And it also applies if you've had a DUI suspension in the last 2 years, or if you've racked up more than one violation point on your record in the past 2 years.
Okay, so basically, if your driving record has a couple of red flags,
Then yeah, that written test is still on the table.
makes sense.
But even if you do need to take the test, the DMV is really pushing for more digital options.
Like what?
They've got these e-learning courses you can take online to brush up on the rules.
You can do that.
And they're available in English, Spanish, and Chinese.
Oh, wow. That's pretty convenient.
Right.
Accessible for a lot of folks.
Yeah, I love that they're embracing technology to make things easier for everyone.
Yeah, that's a good move.
And it sounds like they're going all in on digital services in general.
Absolutely.
Hmm.
They're really trying to cut down on those in-person visits as much as possible.
Yeah, you can renew your registration online,
No kidding.
request copies of records, even replace a lost license.
All online.
All online.
That's incredible how much has changed.
I know, right?
It's like they're finally catching up with the times.
Right.
It's about time.
Now let's think about you, the listener.
Okay.
Even if you're not 70 yet, you probably know someone who is.
Sure.
Maybe your parents, your grandparents.
That's a good point.
This change could save them a lot of time and hassle.
And stress.
And stress.
Nobody wants to deal with a DMV trip if they don't have to.
Exactly. And it shows how government agencies are starting to use technology to actually improve things for people.
I like that.
Yeah, the DMV website is becoming a one-stop shop for everything driver-related.
Seriously.
They even have this cool tool called the Service Advisor.
What's that do?
It helps you figure out the best way to get things done.
Like if you should go in person or do it online?
Exactly.
That's pretty handy.
It is.
So they're not just offering more online services, but they're making them easier to use too.
Exactly.
It's like they finally get how people live their lives these days.
Right. We're all about convenience.
And efficiency.
So to recap, the big news is no more written tests for most senior drivers in California.
Starting next October.
Yeah, and we talked about why the DMV is making this change
Mm-hmm.
and how they're using technology to make everything smoother.
Yeah, it's a pretty big deal.
It is, but this is just the start of our deep dive.
Oh, there's more.
Oh, yeah. In the next part, we're going to explore how this policy could impact other states.
Interesting.
And we'll get into some of the ethical questions about personalized driving requirements.
Okay, this is getting good.
Buckle up,
I'm ready.
because things are about to get really interesting.
Can't wait. All right, so we've just scratched the surface of these changes in California, but now let's think bigger.
Yeah, where do we go from here?
Could this spark a nationwide trend?
It's a good question.
Will other states follow California's lead?
Well, California often sets the pace when it comes to policy.
That's true.
So it wouldn't be surprising to see other states thinking about this.
Right.
But here's the thing. What works in California might not work everywhere else.
That's a really important point.
Each state has its own unique situation. You know, demographics, traffic patterns, even the weather.
All of that plays a role.
Yeah, a policy that seems like a no-brainer in sunny California
Right.
might not make sense in a state with harsh winters.
Or huge rural areas
Exactly.
where driving is essential.
Yeah, imagine a state where people rely on their cars to get everywhere.
Right.
Removing the written test there
Yeah.
could be a whole different ballgame
Totally a different conversation.
compared to a big city with lots of public transportation.
Yeah, where driving is more of a choice.
Exactly. And don't forget about states with snowstorms and icy roads.
Oh, yeah, that's a whole other challenge.
That written test might be more important there.
To make sure drivers know how to handle those conditions.
Right. So while California's decision is a big deal,
Mhm.
it's not a one-size-fits-all solution.
Every state has to figure out what works best for them.
Exactly. It's going to spark a lot of debate about how we approach driver's license renewals.
Especially for older drivers.
Yeah, that conversation is already starting.
I've seen some articles about it.
And it's interesting to see all the different opinions.
Yeah, some people are all for it. Some people are against it.
It's going to be interesting to see how it all plays out.
Right? Some states might follow California's lead,
Others might stick with what they're doing.
and some might come up with totally new ideas.
It's like a giant experiment.
It is.
Each state is a testing ground.
And that brings up a really important point. We need data.
Data.
We need
Research to see what actually works.
Right, as states try different things,
Yeah.
we need to track the results
Make sure those changes are actually making the roads safer.
and the licensing system more efficient.
Right. It can't just be about making a change and hoping for the best.
We need evidence to back it up.
Absolutely.
And let's not forget about the human side of all this.
The people behind the wheel.
Yeah, imagine you're a senior driver.
Okay.
You've been driving safely for decades.
Right.
And suddenly there are all these new requirements.
Questioning your ability to drive, that could be really unsettling.
It could feel like an insult.
Right, especially for older adults who might not have many other options for getting around.
Yeah, driving can be a big part of their independence.
So we need to be sensitive to that.
Approach these conversations with empathy.
Because this isn't just about rules.
It's about people's lives.
Exactly. It's about finding that balance
Balance between
between safety for everyone on the road
Mhm.
and respecting individual dignity.
and autonomy.
Right. It's tricky, but it's important.
It is. And speaking of tricky, there's another layer to this.
Oh, what's that?
The ethical considerations.
Oh, yeah.
When we start talking about personalized driving requirements,
That's a whole other can of worms.
it's where things get really interesting.
Okay, I'm all ears.
So when we say personalized driving requirements,
Yeah.
we're moving away from that one-size-fits-all approach.
Right, treating everyone the same.
Exactly. And we're saying that different drivers might need to meet different standards.
Based on their individual abilities and needs.
Right. And that raises a whole bunch of questions.
Like what?
Well, how do we decide what factors to consider?
When assessing someone's driving.
How do we make sure those assessments are fair?
And unbiased.
And how do we balance safety with individual rights?
It's a minefield.
It is, let's take cognitive decline, for example.
Okay.
It's a real concern as people age.
Mm-hmm.
But how do we assess cognitive function in a way that's accurate and respectful?
Right.
And when does it become a problem for driving?
Tough questions.
No easy answers.
And it's not just about cognitive function.
Right. You could look at vision reaction time.
Physical limitations.
But
Even
how do
someone's
I-
driving history.
But how do you weigh all those factors?
Who gets to decide?
It's complicated.
It really is. And then there's the issue of data privacy.
Oh, yeah. That's a big one.
If we're collecting all this personal information about drivers
How do we make sure it's used responsibly?
and ethically,
How do we prevent discrimination
these are all important questions.
that we need to address?
Before we even start talking about personalized requirements
It's like a giant puzzle.
with a lot of missing pieces.
We need input from everyone.
Ethicists, legal experts, policymakers,
Technology developers.
and most importantly, drivers themselves,
We need to have open and honest conversations
to figure out how to move forward.
in a way that's both safe and fair.
So we've talked about the potential impact on other states
Mm-hmm.
and the ethical considerations.
The tricky stuff.
But there's another layer to this story.
Another layer.
This policy change is part of a much bigger shift.
In society as a whole,
It's a sign of the times.
a glimpse into the future of transportation.
You're right, this goes way beyond driver's licenses.
It's about how technology is changing everything.
Self-driving cars, ride-sharing services, smart traffic systems,
It's all happening so fast.
and it's making us rethink our relationship with driving.
The car used to be a symbol of freedom,
Independence.
but now it's starting to take on a different role.
For some people, it might become just another way to get around.
Efficient, safe, maybe even hands-free.
But for others, it might still hold that special meaning.
A connection to the past,
It's a fascinating transition.
and it's happening right now.
It's going to look different in different parts of the world.
But one thing's for sure, we need to be ready for it.
Absolutely. We need to adapt our policies, our infrastructure.
Even our mindsets.
This California DMV decision,
Yeah.
it's more than just a rule change.
It's a reflection of this larger transformation.
That's happening all around us. Welcome back for the final part of our deep dive.
All right, let's wrap things up.
We've talked a lot about this California DMV policy,
The ins and outs.
looked at how it could affect other states,
Yeah, the ripple effect.
and even got into some pretty deep ethical questions.
It's complicated stuff.
It is. But now let's switch gears and talk solutions.
Solutions.
Yeah.
I like that.
We've identified the challenges.
Right.
So how can we make things better?
For everyone.
How can we make transportation safer, smarter, more equitable for all? Big question. They are. So let's start with the big one. How do we assess driver competency?
Especially as people get older.
Yeah, without just relying on those written tests.
Right, we talked about the limitations of those.
And the ethical concerns with personalized assessments.
So what are some new ideas?
Well, technology can play a big role here.
Like how?
Imagine virtual reality simulations.
VR for driving.
Yeah, we could put drivers of all ages through these simulations.
In a safe environment.
Right. No real-world risks.
So we could test reaction times.
Decision-making, spatial awareness.
All the things that matter for safe driving.
Without anyone actually having to get behind the wheel.
That's a cool idea.
And we could customize those simulations
For different age groups?
different driving conditions.
So we get a more personalized picture of someone's abilities.
It'd be like a high-tech video game for driver training.
I like it.
And with AI and machine learning,
Yeah, all that fancy stuff.
we could even develop systems that analyze driving patterns in real time
Real time.
and flag potential risks.
Before they become accidents.
Exactly. It's like having a co-pilot who's always looking out for you.
That's pretty amazing.
It could be a game changer for safety,
For sure.
but technology alone isn't enough.
Right.
We also need to think about how we design our community
And our infrastructure.
to make driving safer for everyone.
Like what kind of things?
Well, think about better road design.
Yep.
Clearer signs, better lighting,
Those are all good things.
especially for drivers with age-related vision changes or slower reflexes.
Right.
We need to create environments that are easy to navigate.
And forgiving of mistakes.
Exactly. And we need to create more options for people who can't drive.
Or don't feel comfortable driving anymore.
Yeah, let's make our communities more walkable
Or bikeable.
with safe sidewalks, dedicated bike lanes, accessible public transportation.
So people have more choices,
They can stay connected and engaged.
even without a car.
That's the goal.
It's a great vision.
But we can't just build it and expect people to use it.
Right.
We also need to change the conversation about aging and driving.
How do we do that?
We need to be honest about the challenges,
But also supportive.
proactive in finding solutions.
Okay, so more education and awareness.
Exactly. We could offer refresher courses for older drivers,
That's a good idea.
provide information about adaptive driving devices,
That can help people stay on the road longer.
and connect seniors with transportation alternatives in their communities.
So it's not just about taking away their licenses.
It's about finding ways to keep them mobile.
And connected.
It's about recognizing that driving is a privilege, and safety should always come first.
For everyone.
We need to find that balance.
Between individual freedom and collective responsibility.
It's not always easy.
But it's worth it.
So we've explored some exciting solutions.
Innovative approaches.
But remember, there's no one-size-fits-all answer.
This is a complex issue.
It's going to take a multifaceted approach
Technology infrastructure policy changes.
and a shift in societal attitudes.
It's going to take all of us working together.
Policymakers, transportation experts, tech innovators.
And, of course, drivers.
This is a challenge we can overcome.
We can do it.
But it takes a willingness to be open to new ideas,
To have tough conversations.
to be flexible and adaptable as the world changes.
We can't just cling to the past.
We're creating the future of transportation
Right now,
through our choices and actions.
we have the power to make transportation better.
Safer, more efficient, more equitable, more sustainable.
For everyone.
But that power comes with responsibility.
Responsibility to be informed.
To be engaged.
To be proactive.
So here's the question we want to leave you with.
What will you do?
Will you be part of the solution?
We hope this deep dive has sparked your curiosity
Challenge your assumptions.
and given you the knowledge and inspiration to join this conversation.
Thanks for taking this journey with us
We'll be back next time with another deep dive.
into a topic that's shaping our world.
Until then, keep those wheels turning.
And think